key, a universal key to many things.
Understandable. Creative. Effective.
Interesting. Learn the Ielts secrets with us. Good part of the day, dear our viewers and observant Ielts learners. The program of Ielts Secrets is again with you. Dear viewers, I want to ask you to come closer to your TV because we have very unusual conversation with Farangiz Murodiy. As information, Farangiz got 8 band score on the Ielts exam, and recently she has entered to Stanford University in America. And today, dear viewers, you can learn not only the secrets of achieving an 8 band score on the Ielts exam, but also how to apply and enter American University. If it is interesting for you, dear learners, continue watching and stay with us. Good part of the day, Farangiz, welcome to our studio. I'm very happy to see you here.
Happy to see you too. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Thank your visit too. Farangiz, before starting our main conversation about Ielts exam, about achieving a high band score on the Ielts exam, please introduce yourself for our viewers.
Okay, I was born in Uzbekistan and I also lived in Turkey for several years. And recently I had a great news that I got accepted to the Stanford University, which is one of the top colleges in the world. And also I'm proud to represent Uzbekistan there as the first bachelor students who got into Stanford University. And then I also have a SAT score of 1560. I think that's it. Right
Okay. First of all, I congratulate you all success and wish you again success in your future study in America. And let's start our conversation with your Ielts history. How was it? Where did you prepare and what kind of skills did you have some difficulty, let's say?
Okay, everything started with learning English, right? So I learned my fundamental English knowledge in school. I went both in Turkey and Uzbekistan, both public schools. And then I was very interested in learning languages because when I went to Turkey, I already learned another language, right? And I learned Turkish. And I saw that learning language is not only important for passing the test or something else, it's also a key for the knowledge in this language, like whole knowledge in this language, right? I got very interested in learning English too. So I was very interested in learning English in school. I tried to go extra mile every time I learned English. For example, I did the homework in English, but I also looked at synonyms for every word. I created sentences for myself. And it's like it was out of passion kind of thing. And I think that learning English was very, I'm grateful that I learned English because like I said, it opened a key for the whole world of knowledge. And yeah, as we know, like a lot of information, a lot of innovations and the latest news are in English, and so that I can keep up to the news, I can learn anything that I want with searching in English.
Yes, you are right. Learning a language can open more doors for everyone, and learning a language can open new world for everyone as well. And my next question for you, how long have you been learning English, and how many times did you take Ielts exam in order to get an 8 band score on the Ielts exam?
Okay, yeah, continuing my Ielts journey, so I started with my English journey, right? So I started learning English, as I said, in public school, just lessons. and then my self-study. And after that, in the beginning of my 10th grade, I decided to take Ielts. I needed to go some kind of Ielts course to prepare for that, right? And in the beginning of the 10th grade, I was in Tashkent. I was studying in Tashkent. And then at the beginning of it, I attended for 8 months of course in some kind of learning center here. And I learned there. So my journey with the Ielts started when I was in the 10th grade. And I started from the beginning, learning all the structures of reading and every section of it. Also, how it continued during the process, I finished that course, and then after 10th grade, I went back to Turkey. So I continued my studies there. I didn't take any Ielts until I was at the end of the 12th grade, and in 2020, in the February, I guess, I took Ielts and I got 7.5. So, but before that, yeah, I had a knowledge from my course from that 10th grade, like 2 years ago. But to renew that knowledge and to repeat that, I self-studied before my test, after I registered for the Ielts test, and during my self-studying period, I knew that I already had information about the structure and how I can study for that. Most of the time, I focused on practicing from the Cambridge practice tests, which was very useful for me because they are very similar to real tests, and I paid attention to test myself as I'm in the real test condition. So I also advise students to do that, test themselves in a real test condition, because most of the time students give themselves a lot of time. For example, if the reading is 60 minutes, 3 hours or like that. But it's important to keep up with the speed too. So keep up with the speed of the test. So that programs your mind. If you constantly do practice test in a real test condition, you program your mind with that time, with 60 minutes only. So that's how I was able to manage my time during the reading portion. Yeah.
To get a 8 band score, right?
Yeah. When it comes to getting 8, it was in November last year, 2022. I will get to that point too. So I got my 7.5 in my first try, and it was in 2020. And then I have graduated from the high school in 2020 from Turkey, and after that, when I went back to Uzbekistan, I developed myself in different fields like economics, psychology, which is my main interest. I wanted to retake the Ielts, even though I already had 7.5. I wanted to retake the Ielts because I wanted to apply to US colleges, and I wanted to apply to top ones. When it comes to why I took Ielts the second time and I got 8 band score, I needed to take Ielts because as the expiration date of the Ielts is 2 years, I had to do that. And in the November, I retook the Ielts, and then I got 8. For that, I self-studied for, I guess, nearly 2 weeks or something like that. I didn't have to study a lot. Yeah, that's how I got 8 band score, and then, yeah.
Did you take an IELTS exam in Uzbekistan or in Turkey?
In my first try, it was in Turkey in 2020. I took in Turkey. But when it comes to the latest one, the second one, which I got 8, I took in Uzbekistan.
Is there any difference between the difficulties of IELTS exam in Turkey or in Uzbekistan? Because most of students have an idea if they take an IELTS in other countries, they will get a high band score. How do you think?
I don't think that it's true. I think this is the wrong perspective to look at the IELTS exam. There's no difference between Turkey, Uzbekistan, or any other countries. The IELTS is standardized test, so it is the same as a format, a structure, and scoring. It is the same for all the countries, and because of that, I don't think that students should change country to take IELTS. It will not change their scores. Instead of focusing on the country, they should focus on studying more at that time. That they will spend to change country or go there or spend money to there. Instead of that, they can spend that money to learn more English with taking a course or something.
Yes, you are right. I can see that most of students think if they are taking IELTS in December or in a Kazakhstan, let's say, they will get a high band score compared to Uzbekistan. That's why I'm asking these questions. Farangiz, now I think every our learner is waiting to see your certificate band score. Please show your certificate to our viewers.
Okay, so it's my certificate. Yeah, when I got a band 8 score.
Please tell your band scores according to skills.
So my test results, which was listening, is 8.5, and reading 9.0, writing 6.5, speaking 7.0.
Very good result. I congratulate you on gaining 8 band score on the IELTS exam. You could it perfectly, although you are very young.
Thank you very much. I think that I could have done better in certain sections because as it was in a hurry that I took my IELTS, because in November I had to pay attention to my college application essays, I had to pay attention to my extracurriculars and taking also SAT. Like, because of that, I wasn't able to dedicate myself to study for the IELTS. But yeah, I think that I could do better, and I think that if you study hard, you can do also better every time, and you can improve on.
Okay, let's talk about your exam. How was it? On which skills did you have more difficulties, and which skills did you seem much easier?
Starting with my favorite, my favorite sections and my least favorite ones. I really liked doing listening and reading, as you can see, because in my free time also, in general, I was very interested in learning about different topics in English. So I'm curious about different topics, diverse topics like economics, psychology, or it can be any hobby of mine, maybe technology and science. But I paid attention to listen all of those knowledges, listen podcasts about them, or read scientific passages or some kind of websites in them. I paid attention to read all of my interest and learn all of my interest in English. And I think that that was the key why I got high band score in listening and reading, because I used to listen a lot of YouTube videos like about science, and it was in English, and I also love to listen English podcasts, even though I may not understand fully, but I was very interested in it. And students can also learn from that. It doesn't have to be science, but if students who study for the IELTS have certain interest that they love, then I recommend them to combine it with the English. So if they are interested in, let's say, biology, right? Instead of learning about biology, reading about biology in their language, they can learn about it in English. They can, because in that way, they can learn about it in English. In that way, they will both will do what they love, and they will also simultaneously learn English, right? And they will not recognize it. So it's how I was able to study for the Ielts without even realizing it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Reading and listening skills sometimes seem to kind of boring for most of students, and you can make this process much easier. I mean, adding your interests to this kind of skills, right? How was your other skills, writing, speaking skills?
So when it comes to speaking and writing, I struggled a little bit in that. But I think that if you struggle in something, you will pay attention to that more, and then you can improve upon it, right? So my least favorite part was actually speaking, because in speaking I used to. When I was younger, I used to be some kind of introvert, right? I didn't like to speak, or sometimes I thought that my pronunciation is not good. If I make mistake, what happens? Like maybe while speaking, what happens if I say something wrong, kind of thing. And that's why the speaking was my least favorite one, and I didn't love to study for that.
But you could get a high band score from your speaking exam.
And then, but I got 7 in the speaking because I become more and more extroverted. I became more talkative, kind of thing, as I develop and as I mature myself. And then like I became also my mindset shift, I guess. I think in the speaking, not only the important thing is learning Ielts speaking kind of contents and studying for them. I think that your mindset is also very important, especially because in speaking we are gonna talk face to face, right, with the examiner. So you need to shift your mindset from the perfectionism or trying to be perfect or being likable to the examiner. Instead of that, you need to embrace failing and learning from failure, kind of thing. If you develop that kind of mindset, in those like past few years, I developed that kind of mindset that I'm not afraid of failing anymore. Yeah, sometimes it makes me sad, but I move on quickly and I look at my failures as something that I can improve on. Okay, if I failed, then there's something that I can improve on. So how can I do better in that in the next time, kind of thing. After that, I start to develop a certain plan to develop myself in that field.
You mean in order to get a high band score on speaking exam, learners should not pay attention their mistakes while they are speaking, right?
Yes, while they are speaking, they should pay attention to more on the content. Okay, sometimes students record themselves, right? I also recommend recording themselves, and when speaking, they should pay attention to more on the content, what they are talking about, and just feeling comfortable, and just try to continue the conversation, right? I don't recommend them to pay attention to a lot of grammar while they are speaking. When it comes to after recording their speech and when examining themselves, I recommend them to record that. After the speaking part, they should listen their recording, and in that time they should pay attention to all of their mistakes. I'm not saying that they shouldn't correct their mistakes, but after speaking ends and during listening their own recording, they should note all of their mistakes. That's how they will find a pattern in that in their mistakes, because it's individual for everyone. So, for example, one student can make a lot of article mistakes in speaking during the speaking. If they constantly note that they are making a mistake in articles, in the next time they can give themselves a task, like in my next speech I will pay attention to more on the articles. That's it. Like one goal to achieve. One goal to achieve, and it's a clear goal that they can accomplish, right? They can improve upon. That's how I think they can develop it.
Let's talk about, in this case, improving writing skills. In order to improve their writing skills, for what learners should pay attention to more?
When it comes to writing, I think that students should take different approaches. In task 1, they need to learn all types of the content that they can come across in task 1. So I studied for the maps, I studied for the chart type of questions, I studied for the process kind of charts, all of it. They need to have some kind of structure to approach each of those type of questions, right? And in that, I had different strategies for different ones. And also in task 1, the structure is very important. So at the beginning, they need to write clear introduction without going off topic. And after that, they need to write 1 or 2 significant points from the chart or the map. And after that, in the body part, so in the body part of the task 1, they need to make some kind of connections or correlations, but without adding any opinion.
Their own opinion.
Yes. In map 1, please don't add your opinion. You can make connections, but you cannot indicate your opinion, whether, for example, if in the chart they are talking about the obesity rate, let's say, obesity rate, you cannot say that you are against obesity. You think that obesity makes people more maybe more prone to health issues. You cannot add that kind of details from your own opinion.
Very good. Farangiz, you know, writing and speaking depend on one's outlooking. But most students in Uzbekistan think that they should live or study in abroad to improve their outlooking as well as their language skills. But by the help of internet, there is no need to kind of living or studying in abroad. They can use internet and improve their knowledge in any sphere. I want to ask you to advise some internet websites, maybe some books to help our viewers to improve their knowledge.
When it comes to using materials for studying the Ielts, I didn't have a struggle with that because, as I told you, there is a lot of information in English. You can find lots of information in English, right? I was already learning about different topics in English. That's why, like, I didn't search for material in English specifically. But I can recommend doing the practice tests, like Cambridge practice tests. And I watched some YouTube channels when it comes to Ielts. I watched Ielts Advantage, and it benefited me a lot in my writing because he already has like 9 points. And that's why it was very beneficial. And also, as a resource, they can use Scientific American website or in America or magazines in English. For example, they can read the New Yorker Journal, or they can read the Wall Street Journal or some kind of journals in English. So that will benefit them a lot too.
Journals can be useful as well as interesting for everyone because they can find any information about in English language which they interested in, right?
Yeah, I also want to mention that they can, for example, if they want to read a book, I recommend them to read it in English. So if it has English version, of course. So for example, I love the book of The Alchemist. It's a great book. They can, it's a great book for the more like intermediate, upper intermediate level of English learners. And also meaning-wise, it's also great. They can Yeah, they can read that.
Farangiz, you know, when it comes to preparation, most of students can practice more and they can devote themselves to practicing, but they cannot achieve their targeted band score. While there are some students that can practice less compared to other students, but they can achieve a high band score in a very short period of time. Why do you think some students can get a high band score in a short period of time, but some students cannot do it? What is the secret of achieving a high band score in a short period of time?
It's not only this problem is not only in IELTS learners. It's also a problem for other type of test takers too. So they do a lot of practice tests, but they cannot develop themselves, right? They cannot improve. So the solution is basic. Probably they are reviewing their practice test less. So the problem, okay, not the solution. The problem is that they spend less time on reviewing their practice test result. They need to, if they spent 3 hours in taking the IELTS, they need to maybe spend lots of time, more than 3 hours, for reviewing each of their mistakes after doing the practice test. It's like in the life too. They need to identify their mistakes, they need to analyze it, and then in the next time they need to make sure to not make that mistake again. For example, if students don't review their mistakes or don't analyze deeply, they do 3 or 4 practice tests continuously without even reviewing it, like hoping for the improvement. Maybe I will get higher score by chance in the next time, right? It's wrong approach. Instead of that, they need to identify their mistake and they need to make sure that they will not do that mistake again in the next time. So it's like also they can take notes in their journal, so they can keep notebook kind of thing for their mistakes. So after keeping that notebook, they will and writing their mistakes, they will solve that. They have some kind of same mistakes again and again coming across, right? Because usually it happens like that. And now they can understand themselves that, oh, I'm making these questions wrong again and again. What can be the problem, kind of thing. And after correcting that one problem, they will see improvement. And after doing that the same thing for other parts too, they will see great improvement, kind of thing.
Taking a notes for their mistakes, I mean students' mistakes, is a good idea to improving and analyzing their mistakes.
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't thought about that, and I also, use these methods for my for my developing English language also. Farangiz, you mean the secret of achieving a 8-band score is identifying and analyzing their mistakes, students' mistakes, and then they should improve, and then they should, look their other skills, go forward to get a 8-band score, right?
Okay, I also want to add that they need to, for example, especially for the IELTS, and learning English, vocabulary is important part, right?
Yes.
And improving your score, vocabulary is also very important. To that, to develop your vocabulary, students need to learn English from English translation, kind of thing. I really believe that it will benefit them a lot, and they will see great improvement in their vocabulary. In general, for all the students, it's easier for them to look at the translation of the word that they don't know in their own language, right? It's easier that way. They find one word that they don't know and look at it from the Google Translator or some kind of translator. instead of that, they need to take that word and look at its meaning from the Cambridge Dictionary or some kind of English to English translation and learn its synonyms. They can get sentence examples on that. They can they can get sentence examples. They can learn synonyms, antonyms in there, and after that, like there's a difference between translating from the English to own language. Then they will learn just one word, right? And then they will just learn the words that they don't know. But when they translate from English to English, they will also learn its synonyms and how to use that word in the sentence. That's why it's like a faster way to improve vocabulary in English.
To boost their vocabulary knowledge, learners should pay attention every detail of these vocabularies, right?
Yes.
Farangiz, let's talk about applying foreign universities, because I believe every our learner is waiting for this question. Let's start studying in Turkey. Most of students in Uzbekistan are interested in studying Turkey. Most of them have an Ielts band score, but they cannot know how to apply, how to enter to universities in Turkey, let's say. What kind of advice could you give to apply or enter Turkish universities?
First of all, I started living and studying in Turkey when I was at the beginning of the 4th grade. From the 4th grade, I studied in Turkey until my graduation. But in between, like in 9.5 and at the 10th grade, in the 10th grade, I studied in Uzbekistan for 1.5 years. But besides that, I studied in Turkey, right? And when it comes to entering Turkey universities, I didn't try to enter any Turkey universities because, I wanted to achieve higher. So when it comes to your question, you're meaning just applying for Turkey universities or applying for maybe Turkish high schools or something else?
I mean, most of students in Uzbekistan have a kind of a desire to enter Turkish universities, but they do not know how to apply. I mean, maybe there are some kind of internet websites that can help them to know about Turkish universities. If you know, you can share this information.
I mean, I'm not that familiar with applying to Turkey universities because when I was graduating, I was similar position in Turkish students too. We would enter university entrance exams like other Turkish students. But I guess there is an exam for the internationals. There is separate exam, and also they definitely need Ielts for applying to Turkish universities. Try to get as much as higher I score, and also they can get SAT. With SAT, they can also apply to Turkish universities. I had some friends who did that. But besides that, I guess some universities has their own application, like they also need to write some kind of motivational essay in them, but I'm not that familiar with applying to Turkey universities as it didn't interest me.
Okay, in this case, let's talk about applying American universities. Farangiz, let's talk about the requirements of American university. Most of students do not know how to apply firstly and how to enter, what kind of documents they should prepare to enter this kind of university. If you mention them here, it would be useful for our every learner.
Beginning categorizing this whole U.S. college application, they call U.S. universities like the bachelor degree as college, and university is like more general, which includes like bachelor's, master's, and all of that. So when it comes to college application, they in academic side, they need GPA. GPA is like their grade point average, so their academics from their high school transcript. They need to have high GPA, and also they continuing with academics, they need SAT, they need Ielts, and if they have some kind of Olympiad certificates or Olympiad medals, they can include them too in academic part. When it comes to should I say the requirements for the top colleges, like what should they aim for? For example, if they are aiming for the top colleges like Stanford or MIT or that kind of top colleges, it's always better to have at least 1500 SAT out of 1600. And there's also some kind of policy, that test optional policy, which they may not submit SAT, but it's not popular anymore. It was in the period in Corona, during the Corona, because some people couldn't take SAT, right? But they can use test optional, but it will maybe disadvantage them in certain ways because they didn't submit their SAT score. So when it comes to IELTS, preferably it's always good to have 7.5 or above for the top colleges, but when it comes to more like top 300, top 200 colleges, the requirements will be lower.
Farangiz, I know some students in Tashkent who have 8 or 8.5 band score on their IELTS exam, and they have enough SAT score, but they cannot enter this kind of higher university. They can apply 6 or 5 times, but they cannot enter. What is the secret of entering American universities?
Okay. After moving on to, so it was just academic part, what I described, and it's not enough to get into top colleges. Besides academics, students need to have extracurriculars and essays. So activities. Extracurricular means activities, what they did outside of the school or outside of the academics. It can be maybe attending to school club, or being the leader of the school club, or creating their own project, founding their own project. Those are like the activities that they can write. You submit your application for the most colleges through the platform called Common Application. In that, they have 10 spaces for your extracurriculars. So you can write 10 activities in there. You don't have to fill all of them, but yes, you can write 10 activities. In activities, it's important to there's a difference between the greatness of the activity. So some students are just participant in some clubs, right? But some students always show leadership, like they lead the club, they manage the club, or they create their own projects. This is like there is difference between being participant and leading something. And what those top US colleges pay attention to is your leadership ability too. So they have very little spots, places for the international students in their in their university, right? Whom they can admit, like the participant who doesn't, who just attends, who doesn't do a lot of things in the project or in their activity, or the leader who will change maybe in the future, who will change the country, or who will create big companies, kind of thing. Of course, they want high skilled and very successful students. So instead of waiting for the university acceptance to be successful person, they need to be successful person before that,
Uh-huh.
so that university will admit. Those top colleges not only provide with great resources, they already admit very accomplished people in their sphere. For example, if my sphere is psychology, I have I have a lot of activities in that, or maybe some computer science major can have some startups about that, right? They already admit the successful students, and then they provide with their necessary resources, and then they boost their success with that too. After that, like, it continues like that. That's why, like, when to convince those admissions officers, so students need to look at the application from the point of view of admissions officers. Students need to look at their application in terms of the perspective of admissions officers, right? Okay, if you have maybe 1,000 applicants from Uzbekistan, who would choose? Who would you choose? The person, like the student who has lots of startups, who has lots of leadership, who has a lot of activities as not usual activities, but like great achievements. Or you would just admit the student with just IELTS score of 8. There's a difference between that.
I could find some answer for myself for my questions as well, because I have always hesitation about the opinion of my one of my English teacher. He told that he took a video of his playing a football, and he had applied to the university. Because of his good playing of football, the American university had accepted his documents. Even though he had a 5.5 band score on the IELTS exam. But the question is it possible to enter American universities with 5.5 or 6 band score on the IELTS exam?
Okay, I wanted to mention, I had a question for you too about that. So there is a difference between getting accepted to the college, to the university, and getting scholarship from the university. You may get accepted, like if you apply, but it's very hard to get full scholarship. That's the point. And most of the time, American colleges, for just 1 year, their expense is nearly around 50,000 if we get the approximation of all the American colleges. But for example, for the Stanford, it was $96,000 for a year. And 4 years, it becomes like 370,000 kind of dollars, right?
Yes.
But they provide full ride scholarship who the students who need, because they already have money for that, for the successful students. When it comes to more like safety colleges are like who has a great level of acceptance rate, so high level of acceptance rate. They accept you, but they don't give you full scholarship. So they accept you, they are saying that, okay, I accept you, our yearly expense is 60,000, and we will give you $30,000 of scholarship for a year, but you need to pay 30,000 for each year, right? This is also a great problem. Not just entering, not just getting admitted, but the scholarship part.
It depends on the scholarship of this university, right?
Yeah, it's hard for the lower ranked colleges to give you full scholarship. They don't give you full scholarship because they don't have that great of endowment like the top colleges. They don't have that kind of great endowment in them. That's why, like, if you cannot attend that university, what's the point of applying, kind of thing. If you apply to safety college, you may get admitted with IELTS band 6, let's say, but you won't get scholarship. Can you pay a high amount of money each year for the college? If you can pay, like, you can go, but in our like in most of the Uzbek students' case, it's not possible.
In Uzbekistan, most of students can ask some help from consulting agency to apply and enter foreign universities. Is there any kind of websites or kind of materials on the internet that can help students how to apply or how to enter American universities?
I had just one more point about the last question, which is you mentioned that your friend recorded the video, right? Recorded the video while he's playing the football, right? When it comes to application, there's a different thing called recruited athlete. He's probably a recruited athlete by the college who will play in the team of the college, right? When it comes to recruited athletes, they need to spend a lot of their time to the sport, right? They need to commit a lot of their time to the sport because they know those colleges that they cannot dedicate a lot of their times to the academics. They will not require great scores, for example, great SAT scores or IELTS scores from the recruited athlete. Recruited athlete benefits the college with playing in their team, with competing in their team, and for the colleges it's important, for the US colleges it's important. That's why they can accept recruited athletes with lower scores. But to be recruited athlete level, you need to have some kind of international level of achievement. It's not like if you play football as a hobby, you cannot do that. This teacher always say that in order to be accepted in American university, they should see one benefits from you. And he said that his benefits is playing football. That is why they were accepted, these students. Yeah, it's definitely correct because like they care about their university teams of their sports. For example, university football team score or ranking with them. Like there's athletic competition between universities. That's why like it was beneficial for the university to admit that recruited athlete. Most of the case, there are not a lot of international sport people in while applying, right? They need to prove themselves in different spheres. Academics, for example. That's why like a high SAT, high IELTS score is important. In that way, you will benefit them in terms of doing research for the university and maybe discovering some new innovations in them. You will have different kind of benefits for the college.
As I mentioned before, most of students in Uzbekistan do not know how to apply foreign universities, especially in America. But most students are interested in entering and applying American university. Is there any kind of websites or kind of materials on the internet that can help students to find the information about the applying and entering American universities? If you know, please share your information.
Yeah, when it comes to applying, when it comes to learning about the college application, using online resources was very beneficial in my period, in my college application period, right? In that, I used to listen a lot of podcasts made by admissions officers. So if you're just beginning the college application process, you need to first understand how it works, right? In that, you can search a lot of information from the YouTube, from the websites. I cannot remember just one certain website, but as resourceful as possible. So there are a lot of great resources in the internet. That's why they need to search for it. And after learning about how to apply to college as a basic, they need to focus on learning what extracurriculars, what activities are better, what kind of essay they need to write, and what kind of things they need to pay attention to, right? In that, I listened a lot of podcasts from admissions officers. The name of the podcast was Inside the Yale Admissions Officers. Yale is also one of the top colleges, and in that they give a lot of beneficial information about what they pay attention to. And in that way you can look from the perspective of theirs who will read your application. There are a lot of podcasts similar to that made by admissions officers. They can search for that. While applying to US colleges, you need to write essays too. It's like you can call it personal statement, you can call it motivational letter, but yeah, in general it's essay about you and your activities, about yourself, right? You need to write one common application essay, which is 650 words. You will submit that essay to every colleges that you are applying. If you are applying to 20 colleges, you are going to submit one common application essay. It's about you, and then some colleges also require supplemental essays, which is specific for the college. Universities can have specific essay prompts, specific supplementary essays that they require, in addition to common application essay. It may be why you choose our college, why Yale, why Stanford kind of thing.
And you need to describe every detail of your desire to enter this kind of universities, right?
Yeah. Stanford doesn't have why Stanford, by the way. Anyways, why Yale, for example, or what academic areas interest you most. So in that type of essays, in your essays, you need to show your passion. You need to be able to convey what you are passionate about and your why. For example, we talked about academics, right? We talked about extracurriculars. They may have great academics, they may have great extracurriculars, great scores, but if they don't have a reason behind doing all of it, or the clear or great outlook to the life, or they may have a lot of great extracurriculars, academics, but if they don't have great essays, they may not get into those top colleges. Probably that's why like most of the students cannot get into, because essays are very important part that connects all parts of your application. Because essays is the place where you can show your voice, your true character, right? There's no character in SAT or IELTS, but those US colleges, especially the top ones, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, they pay attention to your values. They pay attention to your character. They have some fit. Those universities pay attention to your values, your reasons, kind of your goals. It's important for them, not just what you did or what you accomplished, but also why you accomplished, why you wanted to do that, what was your motivation while doing that. Two students can have startup in their application, right? But one of the students' motivation may be just for getting admitted to the top college. Just for heard that, oh, if I do startup, then it will look great in my resume, in my application. So their motivation can be like that. But other students may have other more meaningful motivation behind doing that startup, maybe benefiting to society in certain way by creating that startup. This is a different perspective, and this is like your why you chose your major, what you want to do, your goal is very important for the colleges too, and how you will benefit to the society. While we are trying to think about what you can do for your extracurriculars, you can ask yourself, how I can benefit to my society, how I can, what can I give that will make their life easier, or how can I change society in a better way, kind of thing.
That's the point American colleges, universities pay attention to more while they are accepting their international students, right?
Yes. In that way, if you think from the perspective of not college application, just filling 10 blank spots, but from the perspective of like doing great things for the society and for yourself, then all 10 spots will fill up very quickly, and you will not realize it how it quickly fills up. Right? Because you will do all of them from the intrinsic motivation instead of just external motivation for the prestige or something else.
Farangiz, thank you very much for your useful piece of advice. It would be useful not only for our viewers but also for me how to apply and enter to American universities. Thank you very much. Now I want to ask you to give some sort of motivations for our learners to continue learning process of English and preparing for the Ielts and applying, maybe entering American universities.
Yeah, I recommend students to have growth mindset, and with growth mindset they can achieve their big dreams. I dreamed big. I had a Stanford wallpaper in my laptop 1 year ago, and I used to watch a lot of Silicon Valley videos, like it's near to Stanford. I used to watch a lot of it, and I achieved my goal, and I'm happy for that. You can also do it too. There's no impossible, but you need to embrace working hard for it, working hard for your goals. I not only dreamed for it, but I also worked hard and efficiently. Not only working hard too, but efficiently. You can do it. Growth mindset includes like not being afraid of failing, and then not being afraid to trying new things or failing. In that way, you will see the life as an experiment or adventure, and it will become fun, and your journey will become fun.
Farangiz, thank you very much to have a conversation in our studio. I'm very happy to have a conversation with you, and I wish you all success in your future study in America and in your future career. I believe you make us happy with your visit in our next programs.
Thank you very much. It was a great conversation. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to share my knowledge with other students. It was a very great experience.
Thank you. Dear viewers, dream big and set a goal, and never give up your goals until you achieve your goals. Dear learners, we have to finish our program because of our limited time. Take care of yourself. See you our next program. Bye.
A universal key to many.
Understandable. Creative. Effective.
Learn the Ielts secrets with us.